Hey, this is Westy from the rock and roll band Pavement, and you're listening to The Countdown.
You're muted, JD.
Rookie error. Hey, it's JD here, and I'll do this again. We're back for another episode of our Top 50 Countdown for seminal indie rock band Pavement. Week over week, we've been counting down the 50 essential Pavement tracks that you selected with your very own top 20 ballots. I simply tabulated the results using my abacus and a stuffy looking Huey Lewis with a megaphone telling me my abacus is just too damn loud. How did your favorite song fare in the rankings? Well, today is the day to air your grievances and or celebrate 50 classic Pavement jams. We're also going to share some stories and experiences. And personally, I think we're going to do everything that we've mentioned here today because we've got a really cool group to do this. So first up, we've got Rachel from Portland joining us. How is it going, Rachel?
Going well, JD. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. And Jen from San Diego, how is it going?
Pretty good. Excited to be here.
I love it. Now, we are expecting another guest. Whether or not he makes it, we shall see. That's what I can give you in terms of an update about that. So you'll see throughout the top 50 list is scrolling from the bottom. We're going to share our top 5 lists today to see how they stack up. We are going to talk about surprises and things that pissed us off. And the first thing we're going to do is, get as spicy as I suppose we can get where Pavement songs are concerned. And we'll start off with a round of hot takes. And we'll start with you, Jen. What is your hot take after 52 weeks of listening to me drivel on and listening to some really great guests talk about their experiences?
Well, I think it was an ingenious idea. At least I really enjoyed not only the countdown, but hearing other people's stories. So I thought that was really cool because we heard from people from all over the world telling us what Pavement meant to them. And some are old fans, some are new fans, some are, so that was pretty cool. And, when it comes to any kind of survey, it's about who got the call to send in a list. And I know I didn't see it until I was asked to be number 10 on this. So I don't know who sent it in. It was pretty Terror Twilight and Bright in the Corners heavy, which my top 50 never would be. So, and of course, my number one song, I hope it's not a spoiler, but it would have been Perfume D, and that didn't even make it in the top 50, which I'm quite disappointed with. But otherwise, it was a fun ride.
Shocking.
I know.
Shocking that it didn't make the top 50.
Yeah, no, it just is about who was sending in these lists, for goodness sake. Just kidding.
Yeah, I suppose. I suppose there somebody did tell me along the way that I should have captured some demographic detail, but I didn't want to be invasive or anything like that.
I see.
Yeah, but I can tell you that as far as Terror Twilight's concerned, I think there was only 2 songs from Terror Twilight on the list, so I don't know that it was overrepresented. But you're right, Bright in the Corners. There's a lot
Major
of
Leagues, Year to Light, Spit on a Stranger, The Hex.
The Hex.
Oh,
Yeah.
4. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, I've always said that Terror Twilight was really the first Stephen Malkmus solo record, and so I mean, it's not that it's bad. It's just not my favorite Pavement at all.
No, for sure. Yeah, I can get behind that. Rachel from Portland, how about you? Is there anything that jumped out at you right off the bat in terms of that you could phrase it as a hot take or or not. That's cool too.
Hmm. Well, to not just start by over agreeing with Jen, I agree that that Terror Twilight is overrepresented, with the exception of I love the Hex, and I found that in the past, like there, I go through these stages where the Hex gets stuck in my head a lot, and Terror Twilight is never the album that I like go to, but in the past couple days, like the song I've been craving is the Hex, and I would just like put that on and then switch back to a different album. My friends have a tent company, and they have a tent that's hexagonal. It's this giant tent called the Hex. So when we camp near it and we talk about it all the time, the song gets like stuck in my head for days and days and days. So that's a really fun one. I also was super shocked that Perfume V wasn't on here. And I will say that I found out about this whole countdown after you had already used your abacus to compile all these. So my
Sure.
my votes never got in, and I would have had Perfume V on mine. So maybe we would have
Tip
brought
the
it up. And I'm
scales.
so yeah, we would have tipped the scales a little. And I know JD, at some point you were planning on doing, and you said you might still at some point do the bottom 50, and I would love to hear that if you ever decide to do it. I think that
It's
would be
still in
really
the
cool.
cards. It's still in the cards. I just got
Yeah.
carried away in 2024. I took on a little bit more than I could handle, but Amplitude, almost a Sabbath vibe on the Hex.
That's so good. Yeah, and so otherwise, I would say some real like surprises for me. Well, one of my favorites is Conduit for Sale, which also was not on here, though that didn't totally surprise me. And I have a few other like really obscure, like in my top 20s, that I know that I would never expect to be on here, but that I love. And so maybe I'll share them in a little bit. Um, but otherwise, there were certain ones that I just felt like the orders were just maybe a little, things were over and underrated. I thought Cut Your Hair was definitely like rated to should have been higher. But then again, when I get higher on the list, I'm like, well, what would I push off? There's probably only like 4 or 5 songs on this entire list that, like, in my opinion, don't necessarily need to be in the top 50. And one of the things that I just love about this whole experience of going through these songs and listening to the way that they kind of tabulated out is that I love that people have different experiences of these songs than I do. And I also love that as we've gone through it this year, none of these songs are new. And so the idea that by having this experience, they like become new again in a new way. And I love that, like, after with 30 years of listening to Pavement, that there's still this newness, and like that happens when a song like comes into my awareness, and that it's still in this moment in my life, like engaging with me in such a profound way, and such like a positive way in which I like see the world and interact with the world through these songs. And now from this podcast, through like these connections with other people. I love I said it in the episode I was in that I don't have a lot of friends who like Pavement. So none of my
Right.
friends want to talk about them. And I've just loved like hearing everybody's like nerdy take. Like I love like hearing, what people say. I loved hearing everybody's origin stories. Like Jen, you had the most
Super
fascinating
long.
origin story of anybody. No, but it was so cool because like you were there in a way that, I was like,
Yes. On the ground.
and I also loved about your story that, so many of the places we were overlapped. Like I went to school in Ann Arbor, and like I'm from
Oh, you did?
Chicago and
I
all
didn't
that.
know that.
Yeah, but like we didn't know each other. Like we never even met in Iceland. Like it would have been so cool. And
Right.
now we're connected. And I think that's so fabulous. And like now hopefully we'll continue to like let these songs keep coming to life.
Yeah. Keep it
I
alive.
think the guys would be really, really pleased to know that, they're making music that brings people together, like ultimately, they're not, they're not the gushy type. I don't think really, but I think that's got to be just a really rad thing to think about,
Well, I think they get a kick out of the fact that like TikTok is blowing up with a B-side, and when they all did their own fit checks, that was pretty funny. But it's I mean, I think they're enjoying this, and they definitely seem like, compared to from 2010 to 2022, 2023, they were just having a lot more fun and it just enjoying the accolades of what this was for them in the 90s. And so I really enjoyed those concerts a lot. So I think they're just in a good place in life. I hope we get another tour.
It would be
I hope.
nice. It'd be really nice.
Yeah.
It would be. It was a lot of fun to just see them and get to know them a little bit. That was otherworldly for me. So
Good.
yeah, really cool. Well, how do we do this? How do we play this? I've got my little cheat sheet here with all the just incidentally, I popped open the complete list. And incidentally, Conduit for Sale was number 56 and Perfume V was number 60.
Oh, I thought you said it was 58 in my email, but okay.
I thought it was too, but I'm looking at it right here and it's no, you're right. It's 58 and 54. Sorry, you're right. It's 54 and 58. Yes.
Well, you know who to bring on if you ever do those bottom 50 episodes for those songs.
Yeah.
It's I'm a fan of the ones where they expanded my vocabulary. So, like never hearing interlocutor or lackadaisical at the time. Like those are the kind of things where and this is before when you could only maybe ask Jeeves for help. Like you had to like open a dictionary and look shit up to find out what it meant. And so I loved that that it was helping me also expand my mind. I just saw an email that that Alvar says he's on now, maybe.
Oh, not only do I not have an email, I don't have a.
Sorry, my work cut out late. I'm here now.
Interesting, Alvar. We don't see you because I would have him in. I would have him in the green room.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if that email if the email he's replying to had the link in it, so it might help to.
Oh, let me send that to him.
Yeah, just in case. Make sure he has
one of the qualified to the bitter end, folks. Here I am. Let me track down that link. There it is.
Technology, you gotta love it and you gotta hate. I mean, it's helpful and it's also confounding.
Damn straight.
But like not my earliest days of Pavement, but like, looking for community online goes back to like 1994 in BBSs out of Iowa, and then eventually message boards and email lists and things like that, trying to create a community of fans. But for the most part, for the first 10 shows, well, at least 2 through 10, I had my partner in crime, Jess Detroit. They call this Jen and Jess Detroit. And and after that, that's when I started reaching out to other, like what we call pave listers, the people who are on the email list, to like meet. And so I have some friends from that, and there were a couple of those guys there. At the a couple people who were on that original email list in Iceland and stuff like that. So I've met them a few times now through my travels, whether it was, I met some of them at Matador 21 in 2010, because a lot of people came out for that. And then again in Iceland, like weird places that I got to meet people in person.
Fantastic though, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you have these relationships and then you get to execute on them, like,
yeah, like
here's this person in real life now.
Yeah.
And it's tremendous.
And, we always have fun, if you start with a baseline of we've got this in common, you're going to have fun hanging out with those folks.
Yeah. You've always got something to talk about.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at your personal top 5. But before we do that, we're going to add Alvar to the stage. There he is.
Hey,
Alvar, how's it going, my friend?
Sorry, guys.
Welcome. Oh,
Welcome.
What time is it in Iceland?
It's like 10 minutes to 1 a.m.
Oh my goodness. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
No, it's just like I have a job at like a bar, and like I was trying to scramble, and sorry I was late. Sorry I was late, you
No,
guys.
no, it's okay.
Yeah, no worries.
We're on, and we're just getting ready to talk about our personal top fives. But before we do that, if you wanted to, if you had a hot take off the top, I'm just curious if you had a hot take about the list in general.
With the list in general, like the top 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of hot takes, definitely. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
What's your number
You
one
want to
hot
share
take?
one?
I mean, Blue Hawaiian. I don't know what that's going on. I don't know why that's there.
What? Huzzah! Yeah.
That's like, yeah.
There's a couple songs that I consider Time for a Bathroom Break, and Blue Hawaiian's one, and Type Slowly is one. And
I
it's
like
funny
Type Slowly,
because,
especially what they've done with Type Slowly on the most recent tour.
well,
I
and
love it
hearing
now.
how much Rebecca likes playing it, like, it makes me hear it differently. But for the most part, I'm like, this is a great time to go check out the merch table and take a pee break. So
Yeah, it feels kind of uninspired a little bit, compared to Pavement,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's number 50, but when you look, what we were just talking about is Conduit for Sale and Perfume V are lower than Blue Hawaiian. Like, what's the fucking deal with that?
Fucking Perfume V was my favorite song for years. It used to be my ringtone, and people hated me because like they could only hear like this static, So,
Well, let's show off our top fives, and we'll start with Jen, because she's already given part of hers away. She gave away her number one, and well, before we do that, we'll go and we'll take a look at the actual top five.
Okay.
The list top five. Shouldn't call it the actual top five. So this is how it wound up. It wound up Summer Babe, Silence Kid, Gold Sounds, Grounded, and Frontwards. I think going into the top 50, there's a good chunk of these songs that you would have probably had in your top 10. Like, I don't think that's a big jump to make. What do you guys think of that? Like, this is, I don't want to say it's inassailable, but these are fucking great songs.
These are great songs. So like Frontwards and Gold Sounds are in my top 5. Grounded is not, but it absolutely deserves to be at number 2. Like, it's an amazing song, and I understand why so many Pavement songs fans love it. I love it too. It's just not in my top 5 or 10.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a solid top 5 compared to what came before. I don't know that I wouldn't have put Silence Kit or Gold Sounds in my top 5, but I love those songs too. So I mean, they needed to be on this, and they're definitely, I think, in top 10. So
yeah, that's how I feel. Well, let's take a look at yours, and very different than the group list, other than Grounded, and Grounded lands at number 2 on your list as well. That's far out. Again, you've got representation here from Slanted, you've got representation from Watery, and then, I didn't put the second parenthesis. God damn it, I hate when I do stuff like that.
that's okay.
You didn't put what? Sorry, what did you
put the other bracket.
Parentheses around Easily Fooled. I mean, they're different lyrics. He definitely goes off on a tangent in this Clatering song and on the Peel session, but that's where that one started, and then it became Easily Fooled as a B-side with some different lyrics where they don't have to be like ignore him, like Bob says at the end of that session, where he's just going off about the currency and stuff in the Peel session. And, you know, circa 1762 is another Peel session song, but there is that is like so fond in my heart of
Oh, it's so
you know,
nice.
driving to shows, doing call and response and taking turns of singing together and stuff like that. So that just, that song always can take me right back to a car ride on our way to a Pavement show in the early 90s. So and of all the Watery songs, I think Texas Never Whispers is the best one. But
well,
you know.
we're gonna have some debating, because Rachel has already shared a couple of hers. So I'm gonna show you Rachel's list now.
Okay.
And I'll pull it up right now. And you can see that she has chosen a different song from Watery. Well, two different songs from Watery, but as her number one, Shoot the Singer. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm all over the place here, guys. Sorry. Any comments or thoughts on this list?
I could choose Shoot the Singer on a good day, definitely, as the ultimate best Pavement song, you know. Definitely. I'm sorry, guys, I have a little bit of a cold, so my voice is raspy. So but yeah, I could definitely choose Shoot the Singer as the best ever Pavement song on a good day. So I
don't have a problem with any of these, you know.
Yeah.
I think they're all solid.
It was the first beyond like the original like first kind of songs that I heard of Pavement, like Cut Your Hair and Trigger Cut. Like beyond that, when I started like going deeper, Shoot the Singer was the first of their songs that connected with me in a way where I was like, this is my favorite of the songs, you know, like, and it's kind of like lasted. And one something that I just love about I recently saw Louder Than You Think in the theater, and there was this one scene where they're showing, it's just like a paper that has some, I guess, like a set list or like a list of tracks that they're going to play. But instead of Shoot the Singer, it just says In These Pants. And it made me so happy when I saw it. I was just like, that's Shoot the Singer. That's my favorite
song. When was that?
It was in the Louder Than You Think movie, the movie about Gary Young that just came out.
Oh, really? So they changed the name, or like,
I don't know if they changed the name or if that's just how they wrote it. I know that a lot of times, I don't know about Pavement specifically, but I know bands will like abbreviate or they'll like call something.
Right.
They may have changed the name, I don't know.
And it might have been on a set list before they actually put Watery out, such that it didn't have a name yet. I mean, we called Grounded the Sedan song because that was the one word that was super weird to hear in a song that you knew, and we called AT&T Whenever, and we called, you know, Kennel District Why Didn't I Ask, because these are the things that we could hear. And, you know, Elevate Me Later was always LS2 on the set list back then, just as abbreviation. So I think it was just, you know, that was what they were calling it in these pants before they decided to Shoot the Singer.
Right.
Yeah. And I will say I had a really hard time narrowing it down to 5. Like when I originally tried to create a top 20, there was like 16 that were definitely in it, and then probably like 14 more that were fighting for those last few spots. So that Gold Sounds, you know, made it in here, but it was fighting with a lot of other songs. And Conduit for Sale made it in, but it was fighting with a lot of songs too.
Interesting mention on our chat, on the chat that's going on in YouTube. Somebody mentioned, it's Tim from Portland again. Tim from Portland says, Frontwards is great, yet the energy of it doesn't feel celebratory enough for number one, in my humble opinion. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think that it's celebratory enough? Does it need to be celebratory? Is that a criteria? What were your criteria, god damn it, for forming your lists?
Mine's about how they make me feel or where they take me back to. I mean, I'm not listening. I've never been one for, you know, what. I mean, the sound is important, but honestly, it's if it hit me in the feels and it can take me to a place, that kind of is how I inform my top 5.
That's great. How about you,
For
Alva?
me, it's also about the feel for sure. And Jen, I wanted to tell you that that I had an experience when I maybe like a year and a half ago or something where I had a lot going on and I was listening to Perfume V and I like burst into tears in my car and I had all of this like and I was all
Oh
of this
man.
like emotion coming up and it took me a while to be able to like listen to Perfume V again and not
Oh,
like have all of my like childhood crap come up.
oh man. Man, sometimes it's
But
better.
that's a powerful song, you know.
Yeah,
It does
it's
a
it's
lot
better it's better out than in, honestly. Like, and you just don't
for
know
sure.
when it's going to happen. And this is unpavement related, but my mom passed away in 2022 from complications of ALS, and I was driving, and there was a story on NPR about coal miners or something, and they played um, "Take Me Home" by Bob. Or no, they played which is the one where, anyway, it got to the part of Bob Denver singing "Mountain Mama," and I'm singing along because I know the words, but like as soon as I have to say "Mountain Mama," like I'm driving and I'm just sobbing, but I'm also laughing because I'm like, how dumb is this? We grew up in Alaska in the mountains, and so saying "Mountain Mama" just like it just. And I mean, I'm laughing at myself, but I'm like, I mean, I'm thinking people are think I'm fucking nuts because I'm like bawling in my driver's seat. So I know how it doesn't even mean that like the song necessarily had that impact before, but at that moment it can take you there, and shit just comes out, and I just think better out than in.
I fully
Yeah.
agree with that. I definitely I think it was it the second night in Iceland where they encored with Stop Breathing and I burst into tears in the middle of the show. I was
Oh.
like, what's happening?
I got set lists every night there, but I don't think they're at this house, but I'm not sure, but yeah, that can do it. I in Toronto in '99, they dedicated "Stop Breathing" to me, and I kind of took it personally, like like Bob said, like, "Oh, Jen Echo's here in the audience," and then like they started playing something else, and Malcolm has went in to "Stop Breathing," and I was like, "Oh Jesus, like what the fuck?"
What the
But
fuck?
you know
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh well, okay, I'm singing along." But yeah.
A shout out from Bob is pretty special. I always feel whenever I see them, I always like think Bob is looking right at me. I'm sure he's not, but I'm always like, he
Hey,
must be looking right at me.
yeah, he probably is. He likes to get. He really is a nice guy, and he gets right up in your face. It's nice. He's really friendly.
Like, did all of you guys see Pavement like post 2000 back in the days, or
You mean pre 2000? Do you mean
yeah,
before 2000? Yeah.
I mean pre
hmm
2000. Did all
My
of you
first show
see
was in
them?
19. I was 19 years old in 1992 when I saw them the first time,
Holy shit!
and
Fuck.
I got 20 shows between. I got 20 shows between 1992, and I caught the last show in the U.S. in 1999. That was my 20th show because my 19th show was in Chicago on October 15th, 1999, and I was backstage, and I was like, I just need one more show and I'll have 20. And they said, well, you better make it to Cincy tomorrow night, because if you don't, you might not get 20. And I was like, oh shit. So it was. I think I told that story on my number 10. But yeah,
You have
yeah.
to
So I
listen
got
to that episode, Alva. It's very good. It's a very good one.
Yeah,
so
you
so
did, and I wish we
20.
had known each other then because you could have picked me up in Ann Arbor.
Well, it's funny because a girl from Ann Arbor took the train. Katie Linden, Wonder Llama, took the train up and met me there, and she was underage, but she had a credit card, which is how we got a hotel in Cincinnati. But we had to take the train from Chicago back to Ann Arbor to borrow my parents' car to drive then to Cincinnati. Yeah. So
I loved when you told that story. That your whole origin story was probably my favorite of everybody's origin story on the entire countdown.
it was definitely long, and he even like pared it down to like 45 minutes. There's probably outtakes and stuff.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
wanted to
even
hear
get
more. I was like, this is edited.
I didn't even get to like the 2010s or Iceland. I only got through the 90s. So yeah, I saw 20 shows between 92 and 99. And we all are both
She's an
Rachel and I
OG.
were what's that?
OG.
Yeah, but both Rachel and I were at the Iceland shows.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
Did you also, Rachel? Did you see them back in the 90s?
I didn't. I listened to them in the 90s. I first heard them in the mid 90s. It was probably 94 or so when I first started listening to them, but I didn't see them until 2010
Okay.
when they went on their first reunion tour. And it was one of the best, like, it was one of the best shows I'd ever seen. I'm so glad that I had the instinct to go because it was sold out and I didn't have tickets. And I was just like, I got to get to the show. And I like bought tickets off some weirdo on Craigslist. And it really changed my whole life. I've never seen a Pavement show and not left thinking or feeling like I need more Pavement now. And that's part of why I went to Iceland, was because after the 2022 show outside of Portland, I was like, I need more. And I looked I looked at their whole schedule and they were like going to Australia. And I was just like, I can't do that. And then when they announced Iceland, I was like, I'm free those days.
Oh man.
Well, and what I loved about Iceland is
so badly.
What I loved about the Iceland show is like first row wasn't any more expensive than the back, and so like I didn't realize we could pick seats at first, and I was like, there's still seats in the front row. So then I had to like call and be like, I want to switch my seats. So we got front row Scott side for Iceland. It was nice.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, they're all the same price. And or I mean, at least like I think like what they call, I don't know, like that's like first 15 rows were all the same price kind of thing.
Yeah, there were
maybe like they were like, so if you were in that first 15, it didn't matter if you had, here now they had like what they call dynamic pricing. So front row is going to be insanely expensive versus, and it didn't used to be that way.
Yeah.
No.
So I like that in Iceland, it's still affordable, it seemed.
I probably asked you, JD, you saw them like back in the 90s, right?
No.
You didn't?
No.
Okay.
That's how this project really came to be. It was like my 10-year, and it was like my 10-year anniversary. And it was the 30th anniversary of Demolition Plot. And so, no, Slate Tracks, sorry. So, yeah, the first episode of Medium Alchemist dropped the day of the 30th anniversary of Slate Tracks. And then 10 years later, I did this top 50 list. So,
right.
Very cool.
Yeah, not 10 years later, but however much. I'm a little high right now. I'm not going to lie to you. Let's take a look at Alvar's top 5. It's been up for a little while.
Okay, before we do that, like I must say that I could envy you guys, like you, Jen, seeing them, but like I feel like, I don't know what you call it. I'm happy for you that you got to see them all of those times, man, throughout the years. That must have been something. God damn, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I say that it's been a hard life, but it's been a charmed life. So I was lucky to be 21 in 94 and 19 and 92, and it was an 18 and over show. And of course, I don't feel that lucky to be almost 52 years old now, but that was the right age at the right time.
Yeah, it has its perks. Yeah. But yeah.
Pavement's keeping you young, Jen.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's funny because like I feel like like especially in 2010 when I was like I caught most of the California shows and I went up to Stockton and stuff, and at work. So in 2010 I was not 40 yet, so I was like 37 years old, and everybody at work was just like, because I was unmarried and traveling to see bands, they thought I was a lot younger than I was. Like it was so funny, like how I'm like, no, I'm I'm a spinster at this point. It's just I still live it like I'm 25 years old, but I'm old at this point, and now
This is
I'm
still me,
super
Jen.
old. Yeah. But it was funny because I
Still
was just
me.
like,
I'm
"How old do
married,
you think
traveling
I
to see
am?"
bands all the time.
Yeah. Well, now I got my husband is like he's a few years older than me, but he's a Rush fan. No, just kidding. But you know, his very first Pavement
yeah.
show was at the Fonda in 2022, and I made him a shirt that said "My First Pavement Show," and he wore it, and
Oh,
that was
that's so
pretty
great.
funny. But now he's seen Pavement a lot of times because we caught like 10, I think, at that because I had 30. LA's second night was my 30th show, and I got a good dedication there, and and uh and so I think we caught like I think he's been to like 10 by at this point because there was 3 nights in Iceland and 3 nights in in Austin, so he's been to a lot of Pavement shows all of a sudden, so he's a good sport, so that's good.
Yeah. Well, where do we want to go
Let's
from
look
here,
at
folks?
we haven't talked about Alvar's top 5.
Yeah, Loretta Scars, number 1. Alvar, where did it? Loretta Scars was in the 40s, I believe, right?
Let's see.
I think it made the 50.
Yeah, it looks
It's around 43-ish.
Yeah. Is he back or is he frozen?
Are you with us?
It's so
Oh,
late
I think
there.
he might be frozen.
Yeah. I like Loretta Scars, but I definitely think Perfume V deserves to be on the countdown more than Loretta Scars. But it's a good song.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can agree with that.
I you know, my friend Jess got Blackout to do. I think that was number 20, and I was like, how is that on the list? So it's not my favorite. I mean, I like Blackout. I just wouldn't, it's just not one of those ones I'd put that high on the list. But here it is on to number 3. So, but yeah, Jess got to do, my partner in crime got to do Blackout. I had Elevate Me Later, number 10.
Great.
Which number were you, Rachel?
I got to do 14 AT&T, which was cool because I like AT&T, but it wasn't on my top 20. But getting to the same thing I was saying before about getting like these songs having new life brought to them, like it was so fun to like really go deep into like what the song meant to me and kind of like how dissecting it kind of like played into the whole like way that Pavement is still really relevant in my life. That was very, very cool.
Yeah, no, I remember that now. I'll have to go back and listen to your episode. But that that was another one where if you're not from New York, you're like, who's Jacob Javis and what's his glass house,
Right?
It's just a convention center,
in New York to know that that's what it was.
Yeah. And so
Pete from Malaga told me, I remember early on he wrote me a letter about that when we did that song. Yeah. He was like, this is what that is.
Yeah, I mean it's the convention center, right? And then when I was in my 30s, I moved to Chicago and early 30s, right when I turned 30, I think, but or before I turned 30. But we had I had to go to the convention at the Jacob Javits Center, and I just thought that was so. I mean, it's just a stupid convention center, but I was just like, oh my god, I only know this because of that song.
But there is something that's so interesting about the way that these lyrics come in. So, like, I'm currently for the first time I'm reading Gone with the Wind, which I've never read before, and it gives the whole like, and then marching through Georgia, like it's got this connotation to it now that I'm like I can hear it in my head when they're like, Sherman's coming, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's fun when you can, and it was we were all like in a different stage in our lives back then, in the 90s, and what we could imagine it meant then versus, and they're not, what's funny to me is in my mind's eye when I was in those early 90s, and I was like 19 seeing them. I thought they were so much older than me, and they're not. They're only like 5 years, but I just really thought they were a lot older than me. So I've always just thought of them as like big brothers. but
Oh, that's
but yeah,
great.
but they're not that much older is what I'm realizing. But yeah, in my mind, well, and my parents were young, and like my uncle was only about that much older than me, so like that just seemed a lot older than me. But it's age is a funny thing, but you definitely think.
Yeah.
I feel like, before the internet, because those first couple records were pretty much before there was much of internet for the average folks. Like their songs really made you like try to understand what they were about, and like look up words and stuff. So
you figure your whole life you're put into 3 separate spaces if you go to post-secondary school, but elementary school, you've got this 4 or 5 year gap where there's people young and people old, and like, oh my gosh, you're either young or old, and there's a 5 year difference. Then you go to high school and there's a 4 year difference. Then if you go to post-secondary, there's a 3 or 4 year difference. And then you go out into the real world and it's like, holy fuck, no matter where you go, there's a wide swath of different ages, and suddenly your cohort becomes
school, you don't, until you're like hitting that middle secondary or high school, I don't know what you call it, like sure. I don't like as an elementary kid, I didn't, besides my brother being a grade ahead of me, I really didn't know kids or spend time with kids that were on either side of me. It was pretty much just my, you know what I mean? And but then when you get into like middle school, you start meeting, the couple years older than you and stuff like that. But yeah, I've always, within 3 years on either side of me is all I really ever seem to relate to, unless when they get much older, I feel like they're wiser than me, or that they're like old, which is dumb because now I'm super old. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird, I'm gonna pull it back to the list for a moment here, and
okay.
I want
looks like we lost Elvar.
Talk to you about a specific song. Yeah, I want to talk to you about a specific song, and that song is the number 11 song, Trigger Cut. Wounded Kite.
I love Trigger Cut.
I do too. To me, it's a top 10. I know I'm quibbling here because it's like it's number 11, but to me it's a slam dunk top 10 song.
Yeah,
I agree. It's definitely in my top 10 for sure. It's one of my like real favorites. It actually like was vying with Gold Sounds for that number 5 on my list. But there's something about it. There's I want to sing all the parts of it. Like when I sing it, I want to sing the the call and the response every time I hear it.
I particularly like, I think that the Slanted and Enchanted is my husband's kind of, I don't know, I'm maybe reading too much into it, but I feel like it's his least favorite because it's like the most noisy and not the most melodic. Okay. But my favorite part is when I point out that this is now the Wounded Kite with the last 17 seconds part, because last 17 seconds doesn't sound like the rest of the song, and it's just kind of like noise or whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is the Wounded Kite part, and and every single time, because it seems like it comes up on our random playlists a lot. Most of S&E would probably be in my top 10, but I would take stereo. I would switch that with stereo easily,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
there is a world that exists where Trigger Cut without the 17 seconds, which I think is longer than 17 seconds actually.
Right. It's like 17. It's about like, yeah.
But without the ending, there is a world where that was released as a single and it exploded, because it's a great fucking song. It's poppy in a different way that stereo is,
I think, so that was the first single that came out after S&E came out. Like, there he is again. Hi, Elvar. Like Summer Babe came out before the record came out,
Right.
And then Trigger Cut came out after the record came out. And so I don't know that like I would say that Trigger Cut made them explode any more than like Summer Babe did. And just the fact that they finally had a whole record out. It was just a time where they're really starting to take off in general.
Guess I mean in the more traditional sense, like yes, it was a single, it was a 7-inch, but it wasn't a single in the traditional sense because it was an indie record and it was truly indie. It didn't have a video on MTV.
Oh yeah.
It didn't have, airplay on, radio stations that were playing alternative music. Yeah, I got college play, but not
technically. I think that one was on Matador. That was the first one that was on Matador because I think that
so.
I think that even Summer Babe was still on Drag City, but I could be wrong. And the one thing that I was bummed about on this one was I was hoping that there was going to be an engraving on it. I don't think there is.
Summer Babe is on
Drag City.
Is on the one because it's on Westing as well.
Right. Well, I can pull it out to be double
Drag
sure,
City.
but yeah. So I think that was like the last thing that was on Drag City, but Trigger Cut was the first that Matador got to put out. But still, it's a great song, and I love the B-side with So Stark is like the first you kind of hear, like I can't live beside the spiral staircase when the money's coming in.
I was just listening to that song today, and it's like that lyric just kills me every because time I hear it.
It was recorded in April of '92 for frick's sake, and already there was tension, right? So.
Right.
Yeah,
I could never really discern. I could never really discern between the the album track of Summer Babe and the single. What was the?
I don't know that there's. I don't know that there's a. I don't know that there's a. I don't know if there's a recording difference. I don't hear it, even though it says winter version. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's just the mix is different on Slanted, and that's the winter version.
Is it okay? I've had a hard time.
But they were both recorded in the winter. They were both recorded in early January of 1989. So no, I'm thinking of Slate Tracks now. Jesus Christ!
No, but a lot of
place.
A lot of
Who
people
let me drive this bus.
A lot of people say that the Lux and Redux version of Slanted sounds way shittier than the original, mastered version on the CD and the LP. Have you guys ever heard that distinction?
I don't know.
I haven't heard that.
Never. I mean, what?
You guys have never heard that?
But are you saying, is it like, are you talking about like, is it like one of the extra tracks on the Redux? Like
No, I'm talking about
the remastering of Slanted.
Yeah, just like the original 14 songs that they sound much worse, like the studio the studio job was kind of botched in some kind of a way, so it sounds kind of shittier. Yeah. Urban legend, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
So I'm sorry I fell out. What did you guys think about my top 5? I want to hear that, if you don't mind.
Oh man, we just shit talked you.
Yeah, we were like, what
just
the
talking
flip?
trash. We were like,
I was the only thing I said was that I wouldn't have put Blackout in the top 5, but that was it. Otherwise, I couldn't argue with. They're all good songs, and even Blackout is a great song. I just wouldn't have it that high. That's all.
I remember
Where would you have it? Where would you have it? Inside your top 20?
Probably not.
Wow.
It's not even a song I think about.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
It's definitely in my top 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like when Jen told me that's what she had, I was like, I got what? song is that even? And then I had to go back and listen. I'm like, I know all the words and stuff, but it's just kind of like, yeah. So I was like,
Wow.
do you have a lot to say about it? And so
This
anyway.
this is what I love talking about, like Pavement with other Pavement heads who like love Pavement, because I can hear this like complete magic in the way he kind of, you know, kind of nonchalantly, like, you know, kind of spurts the lyrics out, and it seems like it doesn't care. And I don't know, there's something about it that, like, this loser rock, you know what I mean? This like loser rock 101, you know, if you guys know what I mean by that connotation.
Well, and we were saying, like, you know, it's all about how it makes you feel. And
of course,
there's no right or wrong
right or
answer.
wrong.
You know?
I know that's what I love about it. That's what I love about talking to you guys, you know. Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
So,
like, sorry, like I saw Unfair there, like kind of high up on the list, and like I always hated that song, you know.
you hate
Oh, that's just
Unfair.
fun. It's so much.
no!
It's
To me,
so
that's like a
fun
road trip
live.
song.
You know, like
That's one of my
it's just
favorites.
so fun. You
I
know,
skip that song every time, you know. So
Damn. Hot take.
yeah,
yeah.
that is a hot take.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when they came back and played Jimmy Fallon, I think they played that song out of all of the songs they could have played, wherever they when they reunited in 2010. I think they did Unfair at like a late night show. Yeah.
Well, I think I mean that's that, you know, that's usually when Bob like gets to shine. He gets to like move around and sing, and it's always like they always just bring the energy when they play it live, I think. So, you know, it's a silly song, and yet I feel like it's I mean, it's always got really good energy, at least when they play it live. So
Totally.
I can live with it being high, but I can also, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing.
It belongs in the 50 unequivocally. We can all agree on that.
Yes.
Alvar,
Okay.
can you agree on that? Does it belong in the 50?
Does it belong in the 50? No, I don't think so.
Oh, wow.
Harsh, son.
I was trying to find the top 50 list. Did you send us the top 50 list, right? Yeah. Yeah. You sent us the top
got it?
50. Yeah. What about the top 100? Like, could you possibly email that to me really quick? Is that a possibility?
I don't have it handy right now, dude.
He didn't release the top 100, but he did say that Perfect D was 58, and which one was 54 that was not on here?
Conduit for Sale. Conduit for Sale.
So he told us that, but he hasn't.
If you have any
released
specific
the other
songs, I'll look them up, but I don't have it like prepared. So
because he might do a bottom 50.
bottom 50.
I remember seeing songs
through my thin veil.
I remember the first time I was on the podcast, I kept like going back to the top 100s, and like because there were so many songs that I loved that I was just like flabbergasted, you know. But you know, yeah.
Well,
I thought that was really funny.
That's one way to look at it, but another way to look at it is this list does seem skewed, you know, to. It's tough to say because, like, I agree with Jen that it's skewed newer, but then you look at the top 10, and other than Stereo, there's nothing new under the sun there, right? Like it's all Crooked Rain.
Yeah, but you know, also of the top 10, 4 are singles, right? And you know, that seems like the Stereo, Range Life, Summer Babe, and Gold Sounds, you know, and so it just seems like that's super low hanging fruit. Like I don't think Stereo belongs, but honestly,
no, I agree with you.
You know, like later in life, like if any, like if late, so in the fort, when I turned 40 and I was single, I did a blog of 15 online dates. And for the most part, if anybody recognized Pavement, it was like, oh, like Stereo, and I'd be like, I guess, because like a certain age, dudes of a certain age, that's probably the first freaking song they heard, which is, at least they've heard of them, right? So
Tim
but, yeah.
says, Elvar, come to the USA and drive across California and crank it, which is unfair. I'll even drive and change your mind.
That's right. We're gonna get you to like Unfair.
It's very American experience, maybe.
I've been trying to get a tourist visa, and it's been very hard actually. It's been fucked up, but let's not go there, But yeah, it's hard getting into your country, and I'm like, I have a job, and like I'm Icelandic. It's like,
They just let us into yours. We didn't even need a visa.
Of course not. But let me say this. I remember I was shocked in the first podcast. I think Loretta Scars was like top 50 or something. And I think
top 50.
Yeah, it was like 34 or whatever. Do you remember?
It's on this list too, about there. Yeah.
It's around 43.
Yeah, that's where it was.
Yeah.
43.
Oh no, maybe I'm wrong. No, I'm sorry. It's like 34. You're right. It's 34.
I was so shocked, and that also tells us like we love this band so much, but we love different. Like Loretta Scars is the single most like epic song in the history of the world to me, in some weird way, and I don't even know what it is. It's just like, it resonates so hard, I don't know. That's what I love about Pavement.
I mean, I definitely think it's top 20, if not top 10. I love that song too. But, it's just how other, it's just what are people, I mean, there's what you weren't here for, was I saying there's just entirely too much Terror Twilight and Brighten the Corners on this top 50 for me. But I don't hate any of them. I don't think there's a Pavement song I hate or anything like that, but there's ones I don't really play very often.
Yeah.
And ones I take bathroom breaks on.
Yeah.
So
I love Brighten the Corners, and so go ahead.
Me too.
Is it maybe the sound? Because like Slanted had this really specific sound, and then What We Saw was like really high on weed and really like, and then Brighten the Corners was kind of a little darker, and then Terror Twilight like a lot darker. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Like just like sound wise, production wise.
I don't think of Brighten as dark.
No, I think it's like their most like commercially rocking record. Like it doesn't seem dark to me.
Okay,
that's
a good point, though. Yeah.
And then Terror Twilight just is like a lot of jams, like it's a lot more jammy. But for me, I feel like, and I think about this a lot. I think a lot of it's how it made me feel at the time. Like it hasn't changed. Like I was telling JD in my interview, like Cut Your Hair changed everything. Like there was a whole new contingent of people showing up at shows compared to before, but also just between 92 and 94 they blew up, right? And then for sure when like Stereo and Shady Lane hit, it was even more a different contingent. And so just the whole feel and the vibe of what was going on at the time, it just kind of colored how I felt about those songs, and that compared to how I felt when waiting for Slanted and Enchanted to come out and being so excited for Crooked Rain to come out, and Wowie Zowie was, I loved all the songs when they were playing AT&T and Candle District and stuff at the second leg of Crooked Rain tour. Like I was super excited about that record, and Grounded was being played, and you're like, where, what are we in store for? And it's funny because a lot of people who it seemed like a lot of the people who were being interviewed really didn't like Wowie Zowie or didn't understand it or thought it was completely not tracked well or anything. And they thought a lot about how they were going to track it. But there was one guy late here, and maybe it was Amir, that was like, or somebody was super into it. Like they were finally like a champion for Wowie Zowie, and I'm like, I don't know why everybody's slogging this record, because it's a great 3-sided record, you know, like you know. So but most people who got interviewed didn't love Wowie Zowie, and I was just like, it's not a throwaway record for me at all. like I love it.
Throwaway record though, there's none. There's 5 records, and you know, like I would die on a lot of those hills.
It definitely took me a minute to get into Wowie Zowie. Like I love it, and now I'm like very, very into it. But when I remember the first time or two I listened to it and kind of having to like turn it off and being like, this isn't what I like, the Pavement I know and remember, and then like it grew on me. But I do remember having that reaction, like at the first like time or two that I heard it, being like, you will like this. It's just gonna take a minute.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes it's a matter of like, there's been records where I'm just like, ugh, and then I see it live, and then I'm like, oh wow, now I get it, you know, like yeah, like I remember being excited about the second Nitro Hotel record coming out, and like going to the record store up the street and asking the guy, like, have you heard it? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, what? And he was like, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff about Jesus Christ on here. And like the second song is like, I love you, Jesus Christ. And I'm like, what the flip? Like, what is going on? But then they played a show, and I was like, I wanted to like run away to the mountains and live with everybody there, because we had just experienced something like religious, and only us 200 people, if that, in a room like experienced it. And like it was just such a different experience, like hearing it live. But you know, that guy colored it for me, like, oh, it's all about Jesus Christ. And anyway, like, so I can
shitty. Did you say Neutral Milk Hotel? Were you talking about Neutral Milk Hotel?
Yeah, I was saying that second record was,
right.
I mean, they only have 2, but you know, that second record, it was the guy was like,
top 25 list.
It was that 19. I saw them in 1998 in Denver, and that's when he had moved away from Denver, but that's where those records were recorded. And that's one of my favorite shows ever to have seen was to be in that audience in 1998. I feel really lucky. I actually moved, like I was living in Boulder and I didn't have a car, and I would have to like beg and borrow and buy 2 tickets to like get people to take me to Denver to see shows and stuff. And I saw in Westward that Neutral Milk Hotel was playing the 15th Street Tavern. I'm like, I gotta fucking move within biking distance, you know? So I left Boulder and I moved to Capitol Hill and I rode my bike to that show, because I was like, I'm not gonna miss this. I'm not gonna because I'm not gonna convince anybody to take me, right? So I literally moved like further from work. I had to commute to Boulder every day just so that I would be within bicycling distance of the 15th Street Tavern that night, so that I could make sure I got to see Neutral Milk Hotel in 1998. That's like how bonkers I was about about seeing them. But yeah, but the record came out sometime between me moving there and moving to like, it hadn't been out yet, and I probably had only played it like twice before the show, and I'm like, what's going on? Why are they singing about, is it religious all of a sudden? Did I not catch this up the first one? But no, it made sense once I saw it live. Yeah. And so I feel like that's Wowie Zowie too. It makes a big difference to hear Grounded live. Like, it gives you goosebumps to hear it live. And yeah, so I can see how coming to it cold, or it might not have like hit as fast. But I was hearing a lot of those songs before it ever came out, because they were playing them in 94.
I think I kind of made a point in the last podcast that they kind of invented a genre with songs like Blackout, Motion, Suggest Itself, and Grounded, and Father of a Sister of a Thought, for example, where they have these kind of, I don't know, like these kind of country-ish pop, very dreary, beautiful, but like kind of depressed. Which I think, I don't know if any band has done something like this that well, in my opinion at least, So yeah, I think that's special about Wowie for me, definitely.
Amplitude says pedal steel on Father to a Sister was a shock at the time.
Who said that?
In the chat, you can click on comments in the upper right hand corner of your thing, and you can see the chat. That's
look at that! I didn't realize so many people.
And also, I can put them on the screen.
Oh, look at that! Agreed, Jen. What did you agree with? I didn't know about all that.
If I don't know if you guys can see that, but I can put it on the
Well,
screen.
now I can see it. Now
oh my gosh! There are comments.
Cool.
Well, is there anything else anybody wants to say about the list before we wrap this sucker up?
Well, I want to say thank you for dreaming it up and conducting these interviews. I don't think I've ever shared my story quite like I did for this, and it was fun to do. And I enjoyed hearing other people's experiences, and we can fight all day about where this song should be, but honestly, that there's this much love for this catalog is pretty cool. And
that's what I think too. The list is just the hook to hang our coat on, and our coat is the conversation and the camaraderie that we have formed in the community that we formed around this band, right? So
yeah, I don't know. I think I might be slightly on the spectrum, so I can get like, I can see songs like Box Elder and Finn. We talked about Finn the other day, where I'm like, just like, no way, man, no freaking way. And Give It a Day, like, what the hell?
You don't like those songs?
No,
you don't like Box Elder or Give It a Day?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I don't like them, but there are songs like so many other songs, like what's the Spiral song called? Like, you gotta be strong. There's no other way.
Cassette Dream. It's my favorite. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Cassette Dream is one of my favorite.
Right.
It's in my top 20.
Oh, that's awesome to hear, because that song does something to me, like, emotionally. So I can get really, like, I won't say emotional, but I can have very, very, decisive, takes on which songs should be there and which songs shouldn't be there, because obviously there's so many good songs. But yeah, and AT&T, like, I've never understood that song.
That's what she had to review.
We only got through half of my dissertation in my episode, so if you want to hear the rest of the dissertation, I'm happy to share it with you at any point.
Yeah, definitely. And Blue Hawaiian, like I said, and Best Friend's Arm, that's just a throwaway. And I feel
and like Greenlander, it was just like, it's, I wouldn't. I mean, I like it, but I just wouldn't have put it on this top 50, especially if Perfume V and Conduit are on it.
It's strange, but I'll tell you, how big do you think their catalog is in total? Like, would it be 100 and I should know this because I did the fucking thing, but I didn't do all the B-sides. So, like, would it be 140, 150 songs?
Well, I guess I don't know. I mean, didn't they say they learned like 85 or something for this tour, like 85 of them? And
yeah, something in that ballpark, right?
And I'm so bummed. Like, I'm so bummed I didn't get to that last New York show because
yes,
they finally pulled out Easily Fooled. Like, that's when they asked me in my 30th show what I wanted to hear, I was like, Easily Fooled, and like they talked about it, and then they just went into Debris Line, I think. And because I don't think they had practiced it, and I'm like, oh, and then they pulled it out that last show, and I wasn't there for it. So,
Rats.
I was
But
pretty
yeah,
bummed
that-
to miss all of those.
yeah,
And Easily Fooled's also in my top 20 for sure.
yeah.
Really,
I mean, that-
Easily Fooled, man. That's such a B-side, man.
well,
What
it
a
is. It was a.
B-sides
it
are the
was
bread
a-
and butter of this band.
It was on their first Peel
Mhm.
sessions, a Sutcliffe catering song. That song had been around a long time before it was a B-side and changed to
Did-
Easily Fooled.
I didn't know that. Thanks for telling me that.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
about Muscle Rock? The Spiral Stair songs. That's one
Yeah,
of my favorites.
and I think on the same one, there's Chris Craft, which is also
Well,
kind
hold
of
up for a minute. I
silly
want to go back
song.
to my thought experiment here, which was how big is their catalog? Like a ballpark.
I would say less
Because
than 200.
129 songs got votes, guys. 129
Oh.
different songs got votes. If their catalog, quick math here, if their catalog is 150 songs, then
Almost all of them got a vote.
almost fucking
somewhere.
all of them got a vote.
And you only asked for
Wow.
top 20, right?
That's
You
right.
only you didn't ask for people.
86%.
Yeah.
86% of their songs.
And it's
got a
just
vote.
you know
That's
you never know
insane.
how it's going to hit you, you know? Like
That's
like
right.
you know, for me it's really, you know, how I physically respond to it is if I have a physical response to it, it's going to stick with me. So
Yeah. Well, I really want to thank you guys for taking some time out of your night to chat about Pavement and chat about our, various other Pavement adjacent topics. It's been really great doing this list. I don't know what I'm going to do.
you got all this time on your hands now.
Well, I've got a
Bottom
bunch of other
50.
podcasts that I've got going on, but
Let's do
I've got
Maskmas.
plans for 2025. Yeah, for sure for this podcast feed, and beyond. So, there's lots more to come. So stick around, and of course, wash your goddamn hands.
Okay,
Thanks.
let me say, like, me